Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. If you haven't heard, there has been some movement in the Richard Allen case. So I just wanted to reach out to you guys, get your opinion, see what you think. So you have Richard Allen basically trying to throw out key evidence saying the search was unconstitutional. And we're going to go over the reasons that they claim that it is unconstitutional. And then I'll get your opinion. Mike, did you get that video to play? I had like a handful of people, but everybody else was able to play it just fine. Not sure what happened. Good to see you, Mike, Sophia, Kate, KDO. So we're going to kind of talk about what a Frank's hearing is, what that means to the Delphi case, and what Richard Allen's defense team is trying to accomplish. Good to see you, Sasha. Shooter, what's up? Hiawatha. No, he's trying to get evidence thrown out. He's trying to get it suppressed. Good to see you, CJK. What's up, Frank? What's up, Melissa? Hey, Julia. Thanks. Yeah, I spent about 2 hours editing that audio, and it still sounds like crap. Honestly, I'm probably just going to completely redo it again. But that was like the 4th time I had attempted to record that audio. And one day I just did it, and then I wasn't happy with it. So I think we're just going to leave it as it is. Kind of sounds like a tape recorder. So, Bass Girl, what's up? Miss Thang, good to see you. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, Mike. When you attempted to watch it, you may have been the actual first person. Like your comment was on there the very moment I uploaded it. So I would just give it some time. What's up, Charlie? Sensei. Marbles, what's up? What's going on, Beth? How you doing, Jerry? JL. Blind Squirrel, good to see you. Teresa, hello. Daisy. Yeah, Daisy said it was good. Good to go. Thanks. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Nice name, by the way. Why would you want it suppressed? And I guess if it was unconstitutional, anything that they did find would be basically like fruit of a poison tree, you know? So I think that's what they're going with. So the video I made that I edited today is basically here. Let me show you something on the screen. This might help you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, there it is. Okay, so back on May 19th of 2023, Richard Allen filed a motion to suppress anything stemming from that search warrant. So we're going to read all of these documents, and then we're going to listen to the probable cause affidavit. Actually, before we do that, we're going to try to understand exactly what it is that they're referring to when they say Frank's hearing. It's my understanding they're just trying to get key evidence thrown out that the search warrant was unconstitutional. And there's a lot of information to support that, especially the whole Diener aspect of all of this, him recusing himself, basically, pushing the snowball down the hill and then running back inside. Like, I don't want anything to do with this. Okay, well, why'd you push it down the hill? Why'd you get the ball rolling? True crime and other stuff. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I checked it on my phone. Um, yeah, everything was fine. I think some people just got to it too soon and it might have caused an issue. Hey, Sasha, sounds like they are trying to use technicalities to discredit investigations so he has a chance. Well, yeah, if they get the search warrant thrown out, they have nothing. But the truth is, the defense has a point, but at the end of the day, it wasn't unconstitutional, right? They were concerned about the firearm because they had the bullet. And sure enough, they said, hey, we think we're going to find a match here. And they found a match. But the defense is, I think, what they're referring to, and they use the word generic. It's like, okay, the suspect's wearing a blue jacket. The guy on the bridge is wearing a blue jacket, and Richard Allen owns a blue Carhartt jacket. So that's generic, right? They don't know what type of jacket the bridge guy's wearing. Okay, well, he had a gun. Well, Richard Allen's wife said, hey, he owns guns and knives. Okay, well, what about a specific gun? And who saw this gun, and how do they know that that specific gun has any relation to this case? And everybody has knives, right? Okay, what about a specific kind of a knife? A description, even. So those pieces of information are generic, and that's what they're going to lean on, I think. But in my opinion, it does not matter. Because if we look at the Ron Logan search warrant, they said, hey, we're hoping to find this, 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 and that. They found nothing. Okay. With Richard Allen, they said, we're hoping to find this, this, and that. Well, they found at least one of those items, right? Which was the 40 caliber firearm and matching it, the ballistic fingerprint. Okay, now this is according to Schaus, California Law Group. I think it's pretty much the same everywhere when it comes to a Frank's motion or Frank's hearing. Appreciate that. Katie, my Charlie, Richard Allen's wife and family threatened if he didn't confess. What? What do you mean threatened? Hey, what's up, Jamie? Jamie's in the house. Farmer's in the house. You got it, man. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I think you were just early in on that, Melissa. Sorry about that. What's up, V? Melissa says, I think they should have cameras. I agree, they should. I mean, that's why I've been trying to be patient. This thing's gonna, I don't know, it could turn into a circus. And I know some people are like, what do you mean turn into a circus? It's already a circus. No, I mean like for real. On like a national level. I just don't know what his intentions are. Is he gonna go in there and like make a mockery of the court? Or do they feel they need more visual aids to kind of push their game plan? So I don't know if that's going to lean towards insanity or that his, what would it be? His Fourth Amendment right is being violated. And if they can get that thrown out, I think that includes the firearm evidence. This case would be pretty much dead in the water at that point. Yeah, they will put the spin. Okay, so what is a Frank's motion and hearing? And this is from 2022. A Frank's hearing is a legal proceeding in a criminal case where the defense tries to traverse a search warrant. Traversing a warrant means that the defendant challenges the truth of the information that is used to support it. So we're going to listen to the state's objection to the original motion to suppress. And I want to get your opinion. Is it enough? Do they have enough? Does it seem unconstitutional legally? A Frank's motion is the legal document given to the judge that sets forth the defendant's request for a hearing and the specific challenges that the defendant has. This type of hearing is typically conducted after a search and seizure has taken place. If the defense is successful at the hearing, then the judge will throw out or suppress all of the evidence or some that was seized under the warrant. Buried fish heads. Exactly, Sleuth. The bullet matched the type of gun he owned. Search warrant was a go. Yep, and it bared fruit. But I think the defense is trying to convince them that even though that they did find things connected to the case, that the things that they were specifically looking for were not found. But the bullet will, I think, prove all of that to be a lie. What's up, Mandy? Hey, Crystal. Okay, note that the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution says that a search warrant can only be issued upon a showing of probable cause. So that's what they're telling. They're going to try to tell the judge, like, look, they didn't have probable cause. Probable cause is a reasonable belief that criminal activity has taken place or criminal activity is taking place. A motion to traverse then challenges the truth of information that tries to establish probable cause. And we're going to listen to everything that the state has against Richard Allen for the issuance of a search warrant. So we're going to listen to the state's objection to the original suppression motion to suppress. And then we're going to hear the unredacted probable cause that was given. Well, actually, a lot of this information was provided after Diener recused himself. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Diener. Remember, he's the guy that signed the search warrant. He also signed Richard Allen's transfer to that prison. He also is the one who agreed to seal the probable cause for the search warrant during and after Richard Allen was even arrested. And it was only after all of that that he recused himself. So, very suspicious on his part. I would like to know why. You know, we're going to go over what he claimed, which of course was the bloodlust. To me, that's bullshit. True Crime Beat. What's up? Crystal Lynn, good to see you. No FX. Been a minute. How you doing? Are they trying to point the murders toward a specific group? I perused an article this morning that seemed to say the murders were occult ritualistic. Well, that's been a long-running theory or rumor based off what Robert Ives, the previous prosecutor, stated in some public interviews about they couldn't establish a motive, that the crime scene was very odd, and that there were signatures and things like that. Sounds ritualistic. But they may still be confused on what was going on at that crime scene. Yeah, Frederica, she's going to do just fine. She has been doing fine. Okay, so what's going on now is they're basically amending. So when they originally filed the motion to suppress, looks like they're going to make some adjustments. Fruit of a poison tree, paper pimp. So if you do something illegally and anything that stems from that, you can't use it. You can't break the law to find evidence that somebody broke the law. You're basically breaking the same laws. You can't catch a criminal with criminal acts, Yeah, I think there's a lot in the search warrant that we don't know about. I think the majority of pieces of this puzzle we haven't seen. We have like the outer, and that's usually how you start a puzzle, right? You do the outer edges first. Why? Because that's the easiest. It's the low-hanging fruit. Good to see you. Court TV shared an article with the 136-page filing. Well, I've read every document. We're going to read the audio that I have today. We're going to read about 12 to 15 of those documents. I mean, you can go through them yourself. They're available to you. I didn't see any mention of Odinites. I think what you're referring to is a lot of the rumors about the crime scene and symbols being left, and the term non-secular. Frank says, Judge Gold will see right through all of the defense nonsense. Yeah, they're going through the motions, but I don't know. I think they might have a good argument, but I think overall they're going to fail. But I think they do have a good argument. And I wonder if they're going to bring up the whole Diener part of it all. I'm very curious about that. True Crime says they did have probable cause. Who thinks that they did not have probable cause? Let's hear from those folks. And we're going to go over all the information. You can make up your mind for yourself. Okay, what's a Frank's hearing? A Frank's hearing is a proceeding before a judge where a defendant contests the veracity of a search warrant. The name stems from a real court case heard by the United States Supreme Court in Franks v. Delaware. Note that in order to obtain a warrant, a police department officer must submit a search warrant affidavit to the judge. This document gives the reasons why he or she should allow law enforcement to conduct a search. Sometimes an affidavit will include statements from a confidential informant. If a defendant believes that the affidavit contains false information, then the defendant requests a Frank's hearing to challenge the warrant, and he or she makes this request in a Frank's motion. So that's what we're seeing here. The motion can question information in the affidavit by showing that it contained a false statement. So that's what we're going to be looking for, okay? Let me write this down. When we listen to the PCA, we're going to be looking for false statements. Contained false information or material information that was false. So any statements, any information that we think is false, we'll kind of stop and talk about that. It was made a reckless disregard for the truth. So basically a blatant lie. The first thing that comes to mind is finding the tip. Where did they find that old tip narrative about Richard Allen coming forward? Where'd that come from? I get some lying vibes about that, but they might have a good reason. But that's what comes to mind. Reckless disregard. Oh, we just, we were going through some old tips and there it was. If that's the case, I'm calling bullshit. Also, it contained misleading information. So we're looking for false statements, false information, or material information, um, reckless disregard for the truth, and misleading information. So at any point, if you hear that when we're listening to the probable cause affidavit, let me know. Eddie? Who's Eddie? Sounds like an AK. The defense has mentioned 4 new people in the new filing. Crystal, do you have that document? If anybody has that, shoot it over to me. sleuthintuition@gmail.com. The Odinites. I don't think I've ever heard of that. I've heard of the Sons of Odin. My Charlie, did you read the document that dropped this morning? No. I haven't read that one. If you got it, shoot it on over. We'll pull it up. We'll read it together. Did you not see the documents? No, I haven't. Let's take a look here. Frank Meister just sent me something. Okay, memorandum in support of the accused motion for Frank's hearing. Because the facts in this memorandum are dense for anyone not yet completely familiar with this case, the defense is providing this introductory section, similar to the syllabus that often precedes a long and complex U.S. Supreme Court opinion. So this was put out by the defense or what? The evidence that connects the Odinist to the murders. Oh, wow. This is crazy. Yeah, I've never seen this. What is Odinism? 12-page Odin report. What the hell is this? Brad Holder? Brad Holder's connection? Who authored this? Carroll Circuit Court, Carroll County. This is weird. Is this legit? Where'd you get this from, Frank? It's weird to see Brad Holder's name there. Holder's alibi was not even close to fully vetted. Oh, okay. So they're going to try to pin it on somebody else. Nothing to see here. Holder has an alibi. Please look at the next suspect. Elvis Field's connection to the crime scene. The Rod Abrams problem. The phone problem. Patrick Westfall's connection to the crime scene. Why do I know that name? Patrick Westfall. Johnny Messer's connection to the crime and the crime scene. Rod Abrams' connection to the crime scene. Conclusion of part 2. Leggett concealed and falsified evidence in his search warrant affidavit. Odinists in Westville. Yeah, this is the first time I've ever heard that term. The hell is an Odinite? Richard Allen has no ties to Odinism or any religious cult and has no ties to the crime scene. What about the bullet? 8 things to know. Overwhelming evidence in the case supports the following. Members of a pagan Norse religion called Odinism, hijacked by white nationalists, ritualistically sacrificed Abigail Williams and Liberty German. I wonder if they're basing that off what was found at the crime scene. They're going to try to spin it. Can you guys see that okay? I don't know if I can put this in full screen. There we go. But that almost makes it worse, huh? We'll just keep it like this. Yep, there can be a problem if it's fruits of a poisonous tree. Describes the crime scene. Oh, snap, Linda. I'm sorry I missed you there. We have a new member. Welcome, Linda. Sorry about that. Sorry. I'm really distracted by this. This is the first time I'm seeing this, so I just want to make sure we go over it. With the fine-tooth comb, so to speak. Crystal, this is what you're referring to, huh? Yeah, let's go through this. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. That's what we're going to do, Gian. This is news to me. Okay, introduction. Table of contents, 8 things to know. Odinism, Odinites, runes. What the hell? Failure to pursue the Odinites link. Odinites in Westville Correctional Facility. Guarding Richard Allen. Leggett concealed certain witness testimony and falsified other witness testimony in order to prevent Leggett's bogus timeline from being exposed to Judge Diener. Okay, so they're not tying Judge Diener into any of this. Evidence supporting these facts were needles in a giant haystack of discovery. 5-part breakdown of the memorandum. Part 1, the crime scene. Part 2, the evidence that connects the Odinites to the murders. What is Odinism? The 12-page Odin report. Brad Holder's connection. Holder's alibi was not even close to fully vetted. Nothing to see here. Holder had an alibi. Please look at the next suspect. Elvis Field's connection to the crime scene. The Rod Abrams problem. The phone problem. Patrick Westfall. Where the hell? I know that name. Somebody help me out on that one. Johnny Messer's connection, Rod Abrams' connection. Okay. All right, let's get to it. Overwhelming evidence in this case supports the following. Members of a pagan Norse religion called Odinism, hijacked by white nationalists, ritualistically sacrificed Abby and Libby. Very early on, those in charge of the Delphi murder investigation claimed that they consulted with the Purdue professor concerning what resembled possible Odinism signatures left behind at the crime scene. Well, that's very interesting. After the Purdue professor proclaimed, according to State Trooper Jerry Holman, that it was not Odinism or any type of cult worshiping of any type of group that would have conducted the crime. How would he's not an expert? The Odinism angle was essentially abandoned. However, as of September 7th, 2023, the leaders of the Delphi investigation team claimed that they can't identify who this purported professor was, have provided no reports from this purported professor, and have further indicated they may never be able to figure out who this professor is, based in large part upon the mystery Purdue professor's opinion. Well, we all know of a Purdue professor. The Delphi investigative leadership claimed that it essentially abandoned considering Odinite involvement in the murders, and then the years passed. Thankfully, during those passing years, law enforcement officers Kevin Murphy, Greg Ferenczi, and Todd Click continued to pursue the truth. Because of their curiosity and investigative efforts, the evidence establishing the names of the likely murdering members of the Odinite cult became known to the Delphi investigative leadership no later than February 2018. Due to either incompetence or a concerted intentionality, those in charge of the investigation refused to arrest or even properly investigate these obvious suspects. Wow is right. This is all over the news. Interesting. Yeah, I'm telling you, this is going to get interesting. So, this is going to be, they're going to use the courtroom as a stage, they're going to use it as a theater. And this is going to be the story that they're going to tell. So, it all makes sense now. Yeah, all they need is a little doubt. All right, let's hurry on. I want to get to the crime scene stuff here. I want to see what the signatures are all about. By way of prosecutor Nick McClellan received a letter from former Rushville Assistant Police Chief Todd Click, now retired. As stated in the previous paragraph, Click, Murphy, and Ferenczi were three of the law enforcement officers who worked on the Delphi murder case, particularly focused on the Odinite angle as it intersected with suspects in Rushville, Indiana. I wonder if this is what the Stevenson case had to do with. Maybe some of that Odinite stuff. After reading Richard Allen's probable cause affidavit, Click became concerned that the information contained in Richard Allen's affidavit pointing the finger at Richard Allen was far less compelling than the totality of the information that Detective Ferenczi, Detective Murphy, and Officer Click had accumulated during the Rushville portion of the investigation. The information that Murphy, Ferenczi, and Click had gathered during their investigation connected men who practiced Odinism in or near Delphi with another group of men who lived in Rushville, and then connected both groups of men to the murders. Click was concerned that for some reason the leadership of the investigative team had failed to share with Prosecutor McClellan the evidence gathered by Click, Ferenczi, and Murphy. Click's concerns led him to seek out a lawyer to assist him in a drafting of a letter. This letter was then sent to McClellan. This letter was not provided to the defense until after it was obvious from the last round of depositions that the defense, who had doggedly pursued witnesses as far away as Georgia, would certainly be talking with Todd Click. McClellan had his letter in his possession for over 4 months before turning it over to the defense. There can be no mistaking that this letter is exculpatory in nature and could have been used by the defense as it prepared for upcoming depositions. However, it is apparent that McClellan only offered up the letter after it was obvious that the defense team would soon be learning of the letter's existence. In other words, the defense team would obviously be meeting with or deposing Click in the next few weeks. At that time, Click most certainly would then reveal to the defense that in April 2023, he, Click, had sent a letter containing exculpatory information to McClellan. As this point, McClellan had two distinct choices: sit on the evidence, hoping that the defense team would focus its efforts on another angle of the investigation. Two, disclose the exculpatory evidence, claiming that contents of the letter were overlooked in the volume of discovery. He chose the latter. Unfortunately for the state, neither approach explains away the fact that Click specifically directed the letter to McClellan himself. And further, Click was so determined to ensure his information was consumed by McClellan that he directed the information directly to McClellan via certified mail. See, this is all lawyer speak. It's all inflated stuff. The letter is stamped received May 1st, 2023, Carroll County prosecutor. He couldn't sleep at night until he knew McClellan had the letter. Click's report landed at Ground Zero, prosecutor office with no more than 2 full-time prosecutors and a handful of full-time staff members at best. Could this exculpatory evidence have been completely overlooked? Not plausible. Not only did the prosecution withhold the letter from the defense, but law enforcement also withheld several other exculpatory pieces of evidence, including an 85-page compilation of reports by Click prepared in 2019 and several videos containing statements that support the defense theory of Richard Allen's innocence. This 85-page report detailed the investigative work performed by Click, Ferenczi, Murphy, and others, including the FBI. Oh, yeah, they are going to have a field day. But this doesn't mean anything to me. They're making a good statement. They're creating doubt. That's what they're supposed to do. That court TV shared today about Odinist. Yeah, thank you, Crystal. Yeah, we're going to try to make our way through this. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Frank Meister, for sharing that with us today. Appreciate that. I'll try to catch up on the chat here. Yeah, so far it is very disturbing, but so what I see is a lot of storytelling. People have been sending the defense a lot of information, and they're putting the story together. But there's definitely something that's part of that search warrant that they don't want, that doesn't fit into their narrative. And once they get it out, they're going to have public television maybe to go ahead and tell this story. Good to see you, Dorian, Milan, Don. Hello. Yeah, the Sons of Odin. I heard of that. But Odinites? That's new. Yeah, we were looking at the Holder angle a long time ago. Remember that video he made where he was like, maybe Bigfoot did it? What's up, Chopper? No, I'm going to read them together. According to the summary of Click's investigation that he attached with his letter, the Behavioral Analysis Unit of the FBI determined that the individuals responsible for the homicides were involved in the Nordic beliefs. I wonder if that's why the FBI really wasn't around after they arrested Richard Allen. This was news to the defense, as no member of the unified command in charge of the investigation revealed this information to the defense during recent depositions. This includes Trooper Holman, who told the defense that he didn't remember if the FBI's BAU unit determine one way or the other whether those with Nordic beliefs had been involved in the murders. At least up until the time of this filing, the prosecution has provided no evidence whatsoever of the findings of the FBI's BAU unit concerning involvement in the Odinist in the murders. None. The letter that Click sent to McClellan was the first that the defense has heard that the FBI actually believed that Odinists were likely involved. In other words, this report contained exculpatory evidence that Unified Command concealed from the defense. This information was and is crucial for Richard Allen's defense. Some of his exculpatory evidence in the form of videos was finally released to the defense on September 8th, 2023, over 9 months after the defense counsel entered their appearance. Okay, we're going to skip over a lot of this right here. And I'm going to read this in its entirety. Richard Allen has zero connections to any pagan cult or pagan cultist, and furthermore, no forensic evidence such as DNA or electronic evidence links Richard Allen to the girls or to the crime scene. So that answers our question about the DNA, the hair that was found. So we've been asking those questions. So I think they're telling us now that none of that matches with him. Most of the evidence backing these assertions was found scattered over less than 10 hard drives and several flash drives. Not coincidentally, members, Odinist, of this same pagan cult are employed as correction officers for the Indiana Department of Corrections at Westville Correctional Facility. Well, that's scary. Throughout this document, references are made to the Unified Command. Essentially, the Unified Command was the leadership of the Delphi murder investigation. According to Tony Leggett, Carroll County Sheriff and a member of the Unified Command when the investigation began. Unified Command consisted of law enforcement from a variety of entities, local, state, and federal. Unified Command were overseers of the entire investigation operation. Okay, so this is from Rich Davies from the FBI. He's going to tell us what Odinism, Odinites, and runes are. What's up, Slatherings? Thanks, YouTube user. I appreciate that. Frank beat you guys to it. Well, that's what they want you to believe, Dorian. If they can create doubt, he still has to explain why his gun matches that shell. So they can go all day about Odinism and pagans. They still got to prove that he's not connected to any of that kind of stuff. So they could just be telling his secrets and not even know it yet. Oh, look, Candy, you don't even know what. Oh, now everybody knows what it is. I've been talking about Odinites the whole time. Get the fuck out of here, Candy. I heard about it on Court TV this morning. That was about 2 hours ago. You're 2 hours late on this information, buddy. Loser. All right. Odinism and Odinites and ruins. Yeah, and I don't know what the hell an Odinite is, but we're about to find out because we didn't watch Court TV this morning, guys. Odinism is the pagan religion referenced above, and its followers are called Odinites. Are enamored of Viking Nordic culture. Evidence supports that at the crime scene. These murdering Odinites left behind obvious signatures, symbols in the form of runes. These runes were formed with sticks, fashioned with tree branches, and painted using the blood of Liberty German. Holy shiznit. Sticks and tree branches were deliberately, carefully, and proficiently placed on each girl in a certain arrangement, mimicking certain ruins. At least one of the branches appeared to have its end cut off cleanly by some type of tool, like an electric saw, providing proof of a preconceived plan. Additionally, the blood of Liberty German was used as the paint to mark a tree with the ruin that looks similar to the letter F. See, we knew a lot of this information, but we just weren't 100%. I've had a million conversations, even with Frank, about that. That's interesting. But they're going to need experts to come in and be like, well, that is what that is. Because you can easily bring in another expert and say, well, you're mistaking about what you think you're seeing here. This is obviously Wiccan, which is what they thought with the Stevenson case. And that could have very well been why they were interested in Delphi, because of those weird signatures. When I hear them, they sound Wiccan, definitely pagan. With a simple Google search, these ruins would be identifiable as one of the many calling cards of this pagan religious cult. Yet law enforcement in charge of the Delphi investigation seemingly and quickly abandoned the obvious correlation between the crime scene and Odinism, despite an obscene amount of evidence linking Odinism to the crime scene. That's shocking. Yeah, Tony. Good to see you. Making my stomach turn. Hello, Karen. Yeah, it's definitely planned out. We also know that if Richard Allen's the bridge guy, he's got something going on underneath his coat. Prayers for Abby and Libby, 100%. This info was in the local TV channel 18 Lafayette, West Lafayette, and Delphi case. Should have been read earlier. What do you mean, Vic? By who? Me? I don't know about the holders. It's easy to form an opinion. And that was, by what we see on Facebook and TikTok, he looks kind of creepy. And he's definitely into that Odinism stuff. That doesn't make him a suspect. But he definitely has a connection. The Red Queen, what's up? It's weird. I'm never listened, but popped in my alerts. He's been reading this live most of the morning. I don't know who that is. Yeah, Vic, we've been talking about Holder for a long time. He's the father of Abby's boyfriend at the time. So he would be... I don't know how that connects him to the crime scene. Milan says the planted bullet. Yeah, this is going to feed the conspiracies. This is great work by the defense. This is the story that the conspiracy theorists have been waiting for. So what did the defense do? Let's go ahead and give it to them. Okay, where am I? Wow. And even in spite of powerful evidence leaking specific Odinites in and around Indiana to the murders, also the court will learn in this affidavit for search warrant that Sheriff Leggett failed to inform Judge Diener that nothing, absolutely nothing, links Richard Allen to Odinism or any religious cult. Also, no forensics, such as DNA, no electronic data extracted from his computers or phones or from his social media links Richard Allen to the crime scene. Additionally, nothing links Richard Allen to any of the Odinite suspects. The same Odinite suspects that evidence strongly supports sacrificed Abby and Libby in some sort of pagan ritual. Richard Allen had nothing to do with this crime, but rather is an innocent man, a patsy for the police, arrested 26 days before an election. And I hope nobody's really buying that. Okay, what are the three reasons people stage a crime scene? Right? Shock, ritual, and to mislead. Right? Who says Richard Allen wasn't doing it to mislead? I mean, that's one of the rules we learn. The reason they stage a crime scene is they want to shock whoever comes across the scene. They're conducting a ritual, or they're attempting to mislead and distance themselves from the crime. So I think experts will have fun with this. Law enforcement's failure to actively pursue the obvious links between the crime scene and Odinism is confounding. It is even more confounding when days and weeks after the murders, a particular Odinite from Logansport named Brad Holder posted on social media images mimicking the very ruins found at the crime scene, a crime scene unreleased and unknown to the general public, even to this day. Who was Brad Holder? He was an Odinite whose son Logan had been dating Abby. So this is an old YouTube conspiracy coming to fruition, coming to life right in front of us. Okay, what are they going to do when Brad Holder has an alibi? Brad Holder's social media posts seemingly taunted the very police. And I have to agree, we went over this for a long time. I have live streams on him from 2019 showing his posts, the weird stuff he was doing. So this is not news to us about this person. He even, I think there was a post, what was it? If somebody calls you to help bury a body or something, and it's like a picture of him in the car. I think it was like a Goodfellas image. So yeah, and this was all around the murders. So yeah, it looks suspicious, and this is going to be very easy. This is basically like what people were doing on YouTube from the very beginning, pointing fingers. But they don't need to prove Brad Holder had anything to do with it. They just have to create a little bit of doubt that he might have, that he might actually be the guy. Look, this is more compelling than the probable cause affidavit. But you're going to have to explain why you were on the trails, why the witnesses say you're that guy in Libby's video, and then you also have your bullet at the scene. So I don't care about all this other stuff. They could be spot on with it. It doesn't mean that Richard Allen's not involved. It doesn't explain away that part, right? And in the probable cause, they say, well, Richard Allen is the guy responsible for kidnapping the girls off that bridge, and that led to their death. State Trooper Jerry Holman, one of the law enforcement officers in charge of organizing and investigating the Delphi murders, claimed in his August 10th, 2023 deposition that Brad Holder was not really ever a suspect. Police reports written near the time of the murders reveal that Jerry Holman is telling the truth. Brad Holder was cleared as a suspect quickly on March 16th, 2017. On March 1st, 2017, Tony Leggett stated in a report that there were no leads required concerning Brad Holder, meaning that it was not necessary for law enforcement to continue to look for leads related to Brad Holder. Leggett made that determination a mere 15 days after the girls were murdered. By March 16, 2023, Unified Command member Kevin Hammond wrote that Brad Holder has been cleared. The girls hadn't been dead for 30 days, and Unified Command had already cleared Brad Holder as a suspect. Unified Command had already cleared Holder as a suspect within 30 days, knowing that Brad Holder's son dated Abby. Unified Command had already cleared Holder as a suspect within 30 days of the murders, although a simple review of Brad Holder's Facebook page would show that he was a proud Odinite that had an absolute obsession and fascination with ruins. Police knew or had to know that ruins had been left at the crime scene. Additionally, Unified Command had already cleared Holder as a suspect in spite of the fact that runes found on Brad Holder's Facebook page mimicked runes found at a crime scene and that had not been released to the public. The investigation had barely begun, but the Unified Command had already cleared the very man that any person with even a small amount of common sense or curiosity would believe was a strong candidate for being involved in the murder of the girls. So they sound like YouTubers. Conspiratorial YouTubers. When we were going through our conspiracies, that this is the same defense that we put out and why we looked at Brad Holder. But one thing that we couldn't ignore was that he was cleared by law enforcement. So that means that he most likely has an alibi. Does that matter? No, because their goal is to sow the seed of doubt. Because we had lists, pages and pages of people that were into that stuff. I mean, we looked into the Sons of Odin and the paganism. We looked into all that because we knew that one of the signatures, I didn't know for certain, but we were fairly certain that we knew about that ruin. Yeah, the Odinism angle. One of the images Boucher viewed on Brad Holder's social media account was an image of two women either dead or posed as if they were dead on the ground in what appeared to be a forest. Both women had tree limbs and sticks arranged on their bodies. Wow. One of the women had her arm stretched out above her head, similar to the way that Libby's arm was stretched above her head. Both women were clothed, and the stick and tree branch formations on these girls was different than the stick and tree branch formations on Abby and Libby, but otherwise it bore a very eerie similarity to the murder scene in Delphi. That's interesting. Ryan Boucher had no knowledge of the actual crime scene. However, after reviewing Brad Holder's social media sites, Boucher was disturbed at that image, as well as other images that provided insight into Brad Holder's fascination with ruins. Believing that the disturbing images may be something of interest to those investigating the Delphi murders, Mr. Boucher contacted Tobe Lesenby, who at the time was the sheriff of Carroll County. Lesenby quickly rebuffed Boucher, telling Boucher that Holder was not a suspect. Undeterred, Mr. Boucher contacted the state police, where he ended up talking to Trooper Joseph Ryan Winters. After their conversation, Winters memorialized the interaction and placed images provided Boucher into a Dropbox. Dropbox? Yeah, Miss Thing. He took his son to her funeral. They were there. They went to the funeral. Jumping Jack Flash says the psychic sleuth has brought up Odinism for years. Yeah, we talked a lot about Odinism because of the signatures that were left in the way that Ives describes it. That's why we started looking at Holder. You think so, Don? Chopper says spider's web. Irene says it never seemed like one guy. Yeah, I mean, that's what the prosecution is saying. We think there's others involved. So I have a feeling this is the way for the defense to put out details of the crime scene, make it known to the public. So let's say there were other people involved. Now they would know. Now they could provide the details. Wow, there's a lot of information here. Yeah, we're going to have to go back over this. Okay, friends with Brad Holder. Okay, so Brad Holder is connected with Patrick Westfall. That's how I know that name. Law enforcement also knew that Messer was acquaintances with Elvis Fields and Rod Abrams. Unified Command theoretically could claim, and actually appear to be claiming, that this connection is simple, a bizarre coincidence. However, Unified Command not only knew that Elvis Fields, Rod Abrams, and Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, shared a common acquaintance, Johnny Messer, who also that Elvis Fields and Brad Holder followed each other on Facebook and even mimicked each other's Facebook pages, with Elvis Fields actually recreating the photo that Holder posted on Holder's Facebook page. So maybe it was just something popular. So if they're into the Odinism and that's a similar ritual, it is possible if somebody that committed the crime is into that kind of stuff, may do something similar as well. Shockingly, at his August 10th, 2023 deposition, Unified Command member Jerry Holman claimed that he did not even know who Johnny Messer was, nor what the evidence showed of Messer's possible role in the murders of Abby and Libby. It is additionally infuriating that Johnny Messer was cleared as a suspect in the murders when considering these facts. Well, they have DNA. Wouldn't they have just provided their DNA? They're not going to clear somebody unless they have their DNA. So you're going to have to explain that part. Johnny's ex-girlfriend, Taylor Hornaday, told police that Johnny Messer and Patrick Westfall were like brothers. She also told police that she had allowed Johnny to borrow her car on or around Valentine's Day 2017, and that Johnny drove her car up there to hang with his Vinlander friends. When he returned her vehicle, it had dried blood over one side of it. Johnny Messer refused to discuss the details of how the blood got there. Johnny Messer's ex-girlfriend further stated that it took her several car washes to finally remove the blood. Meanwhile, Messer has claimed that he had never, not once in his life, been to Delphi, home of his brother Patrick Westfall, and near the home of his other Odinite brother, Brad Holder. So, I mean, I'm sure she cleaned it a whole bunch. Doesn't mean they should be able to still get a sample out of that, I'm sure. Messer's ex-girlfriend also told law enforcement that Brad Holder and Johnny Messer were two of the most violent people she knew and were fully capable of having been involved in the murders. We heard that about Ron Logan. Johnny Messer's ex-girlfriend further stated that a motive for their involvement, and why are you asking the ex-girlfriend? They're not going to say nice things. For their involvement in the murder of Abby and Libby, might be the concept of blood in, blood out, which means social acceptance into their secret circles. All this information was relayed to Leggett and the Unified Command team, yet Unified Command provided no guidance as to what to do to capitalize on this information in order to work towards solving the murders. Additionally, Unified Command learned that Johnny Messer's ex-girlfriend had been listening to and recording Johnny Messer's phone calls. There you go, guys. Police secured the phone and listened to 3 phone calls involving Johnny Messer. In 2 of those phone calls, Messer was offering money to other people to find someone so they can be injured or killed. Ooh, that's interesting. The third call involves Messer bragging about holding a subject hostage and shooting them at his house. Holy hell. Essentially, Unified Command said nothing to see here regarding Johnny Messer and issued no search warrants for his home. None have been disclosed to the defense, nor did they attempt to utilize an age-old investigative tool. Okay, if they haven't been disclosed to the defense, how do you know they exist? Is that all from the ex-girlfriend? Okay, right here it says in 2 of those phone calls, Messer was offering money to the other people. Right here. See, that's irresponsible. They're not telling you the source of this information right here. In 2 of those phone calls, okay. How do you know if none have been disclosed to the defense? It's kind of weird. Many more shocking facts concerning the so-called investigation will be revealed in the body of the memorandum. Odinists in the Westville Correctional Facility guarding Richard Allen. It's like one conspiracy after the other. All right, skip over some of this information. Let me check my email. I got a few emails. Check out Facebook. Let's see if Brad Holder is active. Because he never blocked his stuff. He's got to be responding to this. I can't find his. I just have a Steve Rogers one. But we'll definitely follow up on that. Jeez. Okay, let's see here. I think I'm gonna skip this this part right here. Right. Leggett concealed certain witness testimony and falsified other witness testimony in order to prevent Leggett's bogus timeline from being exposed to Judge Diener. Okay. Let's read this part. Beyond the shocking omissions concerning the pagan cult links to the murders and the fact that Odinists were also watching Richard Allen, akin to Fox's watching the hen house, the evidence will show that Leggett's affidavit for search warrant is also filled with lies and other concealed information concerning witness testimony. This false and concealed information completely eviscerates the state's timeline. The evidence will show that Tony Leggett knew of the major problems that these witnesses' testimony created, and Leggett chose to solve this problem by concealing this information and even falsifying other information in order to bolster the state's bogus timeline. The evidence will show that Leggett concealed facts concerning descriptions that key witnesses Betsy Blair made directly to Leggett face-to-face in 2019 concerning The person that she observed on the bridge and the vehicle that she observed at the CPS parking lot. For Leggett's timeline to work in to place Richard Allen on the Monon High Bridge at 2:13, the time of the famous Down the Hill video, Leggett desperately needed Betsy Blair to describe a man on the bridge that looked like Richard Allen, and furthermore desperately needed Betsy Blair to describe a car that she observed parked at the CPS parking lot at approximately 2:15 p.m. as looking like Richard Allen's black Ford Focus. Suffice it to say, the evidence will show that Leggett concealed from Judge Diener that Betsy Blair described a man on the bridge that looked nothing like Richard Allen and described a car at the CPS lot that looked nothing like Richard Allen's car, both in color and design. The evidence will show that Betsy provided this timeline defeating descriptions directly to Leggett face-to-face 2 times in 2019. Yet Leggett failed to inform Judge Diener of these descriptions as well as inform Diener of the fatal flaws that these missing descriptions created for the timeline. I thought he explained that in the PCA that different vehicles were mentioned. Yep, narrative versus narrative. What's up, Don? Good to see you. Yep. Hey, what's up, Ruckus? Good to see you. The evidence will also show that Leggett just flat out lied about what he claimed Sarah Carbaugh told him in 2017 concerning a man walking down the road near the murder scene. For Leggett's timeline to work, Leggett needed Sarah Carbaugh to describe a man walking down the road wearing a blue jacket who had blood covering his clothing. Well, can't that be true if it's not Richard Allen? However, in 2017, Sarah did not say these things. This did not prevent Leggett from affirming under oath that Sarah Carbaugh did say those things. In fact, what Sarah Carbaugh actually told Leggett in 2017 was that she observed a man walking down the road wearing a tan coat whose clothes were muddy. Nowhere did Carbaugh claim in 2017 that the man observed was wearing a blue coat. Nowhere did Carbaugh claim in 2017 that the man was observed wearing bloody clothes. Nowhere. This truth about what Sarah Carbaugh actually told Leggett in 2017 blows up Leggett's timeline, which is the likely reason Leggett failed to include this information in his affidavit. Additional evidence will be presented in the body of this memorandum. But we all know that the bridge guy is wearing something brown underneath, right? The defense believes that the evidence strongly supports the contention that Leggett intentionally concealed evidence from Judge Diener and lied about other evidence to Judge Diener in his affidavit for the search warrant. So this is what they're going to present to Judge Gall to try to get that affidavit thrown out. All right, this is just an overview. Part 1, the crime scene. When members of the search party found the girls in the late morning of February 14th, 2017, Abby and Libby had been missing for approximately 22 hours. Viewer discretion is advised here. The scene was ghoulish. Libby was found at the base of a tree with 4 tree branches of varying sizes intentionally placed in a very specific and arranged pattern on her body. Libby was positioned flat on her back. with her left arm stretched above her head, touching the base of a large tree. So that's the staging. Yeah, somebody did that on purpose. Libby's right hand was covered in blood. Libby's left hand was covered in blood. Blood spots and blood dripping were seen all over Libby's body from head to toe. But still no signs of a struggle. Libby's right arm was placed along the side of her body. One large tree branch had been placed on her left shoulder. What the hell? This branch was so long that it extended above Libby's head several feet and below her legs for several feet as well. Two smaller branches formed a V where her legs joined her body, with both sides of the V extended upward towards Libby's head, with one branch extending to the left of Libby's head and the other right of Libby's head. The last of the four branches extended across Libby's body on a line from her right shoulder to her left shoulder. This fourth tree branch also connected with other three branches and was placed under both branches that formed the V. Libby's sliced neck was partially covered by this fourth branch. There appeared to be no blood sprayed or dripping onto the leaves or the tree near Libby's head. It appeared likely that Libby had been killed at a nearby tree and then dragged to her final resting place, where she was then positioned before having the tree limbs placed on her in a very specific pattern. Yeah, this is hard to read. So I don't know how that they're going to tie that into Odinism. The murders treated Abby very differently, because we could be dealing with two different killers, right? Abby was found just a few feet away from Libby. Her body was not placed parallel to Libby, but rather at an angle, with Abby's legs just a few feet from Libby's legs. However, both of their heads were found a few feet farther apart from each other. Significant differences existed between how Libby's body was found and how Abby's body was found. Abby was not found at the base of a tree. Abby was fully clothed. In fact, Abby was dressed in Libby's sweatshirt and jeans. What the heck? So she had been redressed in the wrong clothes. No blood appeared on Abby's clothing, meaning that she was likely murdered while naked and then dressed by the murderers after she expired and after the blood had stopped spilling from her neck. Abby's hands were clean, no blood. Abby's feet were clean, no blood, other than blood found around Abby's neck area where the murderers had inflicted the fatal wound. Very little blood was found anywhere else on Abby's body or clothing. The juxtaposition of the spots and streaks of blood found all over Libby's body, with the lack of blood on Abby's body, undergarments, overgarments, is stark. The murderers appeared to have gone to great lengths to keep Abby's body and clothing clean from blood. Why would they do that? Abby was found on her back, like Libby. However, unlike Libby, Abby's elbows were bent, with her right and left arms both placed on her chest. So we've heard that. Abby's left hand and arm near the left side of her face, and her right hand and arm near the right side of her face. Also, Abby's left leg was straight, while her right leg was bent at the knee. The murderers also placed her bent right leg under her left leg. So I wonder if that means anything. Like Libby, those involved in the murder had placed tree branches in a very specific pattern on top of Abby. The pattern looks very similar to an asterisk consisting of 3 tree branches, all joined in the middle. At least one of these tree branches appeared to have been cleanly cut by some instrument, like an electric saw, rather than split or broken by hand, indicating that this was a preconceived plan. Above Abby's head were smaller sticks that had been placed over her hair, crudely mimicking horns or antlers. Wow. The amount of blood that would be perhaps expected at the crime scene based upon location of the injuries of both girls was not visible in the crime scene photos. Let me take a break right there. Catch up on the chat. Yep. They're saying that not only were they lying, but they had bad intentions with those lies to mislead the court. That's what they're saying, Go. Gonna go through this chat real quick. Yeah, good question, Milan. What does this have to do? Where's the motive? Did it have to do with Lupercalia? We talked about that too. But remember, this is just to confuse everybody. He's going to have to sit in a courtroom and they're going to have experts that are going to demolish all of this information. Ruckus says it's the defense team's duty as much as law enforcement to investigate exculpatory evidence. They point out what law enforcement did not do, but did they? Exactly. They're going to say one thing and then prosecution's going to say another. I mean, they have DNA at the crime scene, right? I'm assuming all these people that they're talking about took a DNA test or swabbed for DNA. And if they haven't, they can now, right? Chopper says Richard Allen admitted to his wife. But yeah, he could have been under duress, having a mental health issue. A lot of variables. You know what I mean? Yeah, the majority of this case we do not know. And it's very crazy for them to be bringing up stuff that we were looking at from the beginning. Like this was one of the first theories we ever discussed on my channel. So I don't know if the defense is. Hopefully they're doing their due diligence. Because I mean, we were looking into this stuff a long time ago. Milan, you can go somewhere else if you're not happy. I'm not your dancing pet. Dance. Say something stupid again, you're out of here. Cheek says, and these YouTubers who come up with these wild ass stories are perfect for these attorneys. Oh yeah, that's why they want it televised. That's where they're going to put this out there, because there's a lot of people out there right now telling the Richard Allen narrative. Because that's the official narrative right now. So now we're going to kind of get a good look at the opposing side, and we're going to cover that, and we're going to poke holes in it just like we did the other narrative. Exterminator is Brad Heath. Okay, the defense provided the court with 12 crime scene and autopsy photographs marked as exhibits 5 through 16 as confidential. These photographs support the descriptions provided in the previous paragraphs. In addition to the unusual way the girls were posed, including the stick formations placed on their bodies, Another unusual marking was found on a nearby tree, a symbol that looked similar. Okay, now this is where experts, everything's based on this being a ruin. We haven't seen it. A symbol that looked similar to the letter F appeared 4 feet above the base of the tree. It appears to look like an F. Was red was red in color, and later DNA tests showed that the F had been painted on the tree using Libby's blood, and the so-called paint. Additional blood spatter was found at the base of that same tree. All the blood at the base of the tree appears to have been Libby's blood as well. The defense has also provided the court with Exhibit 17, DNA documentation supporting the fact that Libby's blood was the source of the F painted on the tree. Said exhibit is marked as confidential. The defense has also provided 2 photos of this F found on the nearby tree, hereinafter called the F tree. Exhibits 18 and 19 marked as confidential. Defense is also providing a photo of the F tree from a wider angle for the court to have perspective as to where the F tree is located relative to the bodies. The confidential photo has been marked as Exhibit 20. Under Abby's left lower back, a shoe was found. This shoe is believed to be Libby's shoe. Under the shoe, a cell phone was found. The cell phone was later determined to be Libby's phone. This information was confirmed by the recent deposition testimony of Liggett, Lesenby, and Holman. According to the recent depositions taken of Sheriff Liggett, the famous video of the person that many people call Bridge Guy was found on this phone. Additionally, allegedly found between the 2 girls buried under the leaves and dirt was a single bullet. See the word allegedly. Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to explain that. They're not charging Richard Allen as if he planned the murder, kidnapped the girls, and then physically committed it. They're charging him with kidnapping, and that led to their murder. Okay, so all this stuff that they're talking about could very well belong to the others involved. The defense has provided 2 photos of the shoe and cell phone found under Abby's legs and marked them as Exhibits 21 and 22 and have been filed confidentially. Also, the defense has provided 3 photos of a bullet purportedly found in the ground between Abby and Libby and marked these photos as Exhibit 23, 24, and 25. It should be noted that as of the date of this memo, the defense has no photographs of the bullet allegedly found between the girls after it was moved from the ground. No photo or video, for example, shows the bullet as if it were being pulled out of the ground. No photo or video of the bullet immediately after it was pulled from the ground. No video or photograph of all sides of the bullet immediately after it was pulled from the ground. No photographs of the bullet next to the measuring device to show its length. No photo that show what the bullet looked like once it was pulled out of the ground could provide proof that it is the same bullet that ended up in the evidence. Another conspiracy. A lot of conspiracies here. If that was the case, you could question every investigation that ever happened. Well, how can we trust these investigators? How do I know that those 3 witnesses that saw him put the bullet in here, what if they're Odinites? You know what I mean? It's like he's calling the integrity of the entire investigation into question. Milan says it's okay to admit there's something to this. Yeah, we've been talking about this for years. It's very strange to see it being put out by the defense team. I didn't know anything about the signatures, but we did know about the F shape. Me and Frank have been talking about that extensively. He's going live later today, I believe. I'm sure he'll talk about that. We're almost out of time here. So Sheriff Leggett admitted that he also has not seen any photographs of the purported bullet taken once the bullet was pulled from the ground. In other words, the only photos that the defense has found in the discovery it has received are of the bullet still buried in the ground. At this time, the defense has no idea if a photo of the bullet after it was removed from the ground even exists. The photos exist, but the state has not yet turned those important photographs over to the defense. So it's kind of like the chain of command. Every time it goes from one place into the bag, it's signed. Okay, when it goes from here to this person's hand, they got to sign for it. One man alone completed all these tasks in less than 1 hour and 17 minutes. It's actually more like an hour and 45 minutes. The Get says one thing publicly about another thing privately to his laws enforcement friends. Okay. So I think an hour and 17 minutes is plenty of time to commit this murder, move some twigs around, put some clothes on one of his victims, and get out of there. That's plenty of time. Leggett has claimed under oath that one single solitary person was responsible for abducting and murdering the girls. That's not how he's charged. Richard Allen claiming publicly that Richard Allen acted alone would allow Leggett to continue proclaiming that the murders were not the result of a coordinated abduction and subsequent ritualistic sacrifice at the hands of a pagan religious cult. Well, see, this is misleading because from the very beginning, when Richard Allen was arrested, they said they believe others were involved. No, if Leggett continues trying to convince everyone publicly that one man and one man alone, Richard Allen, performed all the tasks, then Leggett must convince others, including the public, to ignore the voluminous mountain of evidence that supports the coordinated efforts of multiple Odinists. However, you will learn later in this memorandum that Leggett's claim that one man acting alone, and certainly not an organized band of cultists, murdered those girls is actually not something that Leggett believes privately, based upon a one-on-one conversation with other law enforcement. All right. So what do you guys think? We're pretty much out of time. We're going to do a follow-up on this. But I want to get into what you guys have to say about the crime scene, about a list of suspects. Yeah, it is very intriguing. It's interesting to know a lot more about the signatures and things like that. Gonna need time to process all this information. So we definitely got sidelined. Graz is asking where'd this come from. Well, it was sent to me by Frank Meister, and apparently it was sent out to a lot of media outlets this morning, and it's been being covered quite a bit locally in Indiana. But it says here, filed 9/18/2023 at 2:06 a.m. Carroll Circuit Court, Carroll County of Indiana. Yeah, that's crazy. Good to see you, Oscar. Welcome. The story will be Odin is everywhere in law enforcement government, and they set up Richard Allen. Loads of bollocks. Yeah, this is going to be a game for the experts, because this is just a conspiracy theory that we've been talking about since the very beginning. Since we first found out who Abby's boyfriend was, everybody was like, did she have a boyfriend? Did she have a boyfriend? Well, we found out who her boyfriend was. And the person that they're mentioning with the last name Holder is the father of that boy. Well, he's a man now, but at the time he was a 16-year-old boy. So people started looking into him, and sure enough, his Facebook, his TikTok, everything was wide open. All the stuff about Freemasonry, all the stuff about Odinism, and stuff like that. So not only is he into that, he's also a Freemason. Yeah, that was news. Charlotte says phone was found under Abby with the shoe. Yeah, I always thought it was found under Libby. The shell was not photographed or videoed at the scene. Well, according to them, it was photographed, but they wanted a photograph of them picking it up and then taking 4 more photographs of them holding it from each side so that they can verify that the bullet that they pulled from the ground is the bullet that they have now in the evidence locker. What's up, Smoking? Yeah. The main defense investigator has a few accounts on YouTube, Reddit, and Facebook. Oh yeah, I mean this is totally whoever they're getting this information from is definitely involved in YouTube. This is just a conspiracy theory that we've talked about from the very beginning, and now it's definitely has more weight now that they've confirmed exactly what those signatures are. Okay, what is a Frank's hearing? Frank's hearing, Jumpin' Jack Flash, is them trying to get the search warrant thrown out. All of that key evidence that they found in Richard Allen's home, they want all that thrown out. They're basically saying that they lied to Judge Diener to get him to sign that search warrant. Not only did they lie, but they withheld information, which is just as bad. Yeah, we did talk about that, Boston. Yep. I'm telling you guys, this case is going to get very interesting. They're going to go ahead and use that courtroom as a theater and a stage. And this is the movie that you're going to be watching. This is the show. The Odinism, starring Brad Holder and his group of flunkies. Okay? They don't have to put these men on trial. They just have to create a little doubt. And right now, a bunch of you are listening to this and you're doing you're spinning right now. There's a lot of I told you so's and I knew it. A lot of that going on right now. And that was the purpose was designed to do that. So really, the only thing we're hearing that's new is that the ruin that's kind of shaped like a F, they believe that's exactly what it is, and it is connected to Odinism. And now the sticks and things like that. Now I know why they were interested, the investigators who were looking into the Stevenson case, because they said that Wicca played a huge role in whoever committed that crime. Well, at least they believe, as part of the ritual. So I'm wondering if that was the connection. Okay, so we're going to end with the probable cause. Well, the state's objection to the suppression, we're going to hear that real quick, and then we're going to hear the probable cause, and we're going to get out of here. We'll maybe talk for another 5 minutes after that. So we're going to hear basically what the defense of Richard Allen is calling all lies. Before that, let's look at these charges. So on the 14th, motion filed for broadcasting order, Richard Allen wanting cameras in the courtroom and the proceedings to be televised because they want to get the story out there. They have devised a plan. So, amended pleading file. So, a motion to suppress was filed, I believe, in June. I could be wrong. Yeah, it was June. So, June of this year, and they have amended that. Now they have a motion for a Franks hearing, and they're going to try to get all that evidence thrown out. So what we were just reading is what they're going to try to plead to that courtroom. Key evidence was left out. Investigators were misleading. Let me see. Frank's sending me something. I think it might be some information on that ruin. Let's take a look. Oh, okay, here it is. Thanks, Frank. All right, let's take a look at what Frank sent over. And this is what him and I were discussing previously. But he was the first person to show me the shape of it. So I think the symbol was something like that, something similar. Marvels is asking, why is the defense bringing up rumors about cult crap unless something in the evidence suggests it, not understanding this document? Well, the crime scene is kind of suggesting it, but we know what we've learned about staging is that somebody could have easily have placed those there to mislead, to make investigators think like, hey, this was a ritualistic crime. Thank you, Go. Yep, jumping jack flash, 100%. Let me see. I think Frank might have sent me something else. Hold on. Because all my Brad Holder stuff's on an old hard drive. I think there's an old members live stream too. You can go check out members if you want to. We went over all that stuff. It's old. Frank, you sent me a. Oh, wow. Can you send me that link, Frank, to my email? I want to pull up. I want to pull this up because it looks like Brad Holder's actually talk. Oh, no. I did find his. Okay, that's him. No, I got him. Hold on. He's actually talking about this information on his Facebook right now. Crazy. Oh, here we go. Yeah, he's talking about it right now. He's talking about suing Brad Rosie, which he might be able to. Oh, and then he linked the actual news report. Says, if I had the money, I'd sue Brad Rosie for the pain and anguish he has caused me and my family. And all you armchair detectives out there, I'm taking screenshots of the comments you post, so keep it up. Maybe I can get some money out of this misery. Wow. See, Freemason. So yeah, I mean, it's apparent when you look at him, it's easy to blame him. Crazy. Right? And just slip their mind. Yeah, very detailed V for sure. Yeah, we just looked at that, Katie. Thank you. Yeah, Patricia, we've been talking about that for a couple years now. Some people knew about the bullet as well. They would make mention of it. I never brought it up because I couldn't verify any of that information. And plus, I didn't want to release information that was only known to the killer. Well, now everything's out there, apparently. Farmer, are the defense just exploiting and staging situation? Yeah, they are. This is very strategic. They're going to paint another picture, and they're going to use the camera in the courtroom to try to make it go viral, I guess. Or maybe even try to pull out a new witness. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look here at the state's response to suppress when they first made the request. And then we'll listen to the probable cause affidavit laid out by the prosecution and the investigative team. And then you guys let me know if you hear any lies, if there's anything to what the defense is trying to say about this. State's objection to defendant's motion to suppress. Now comes the state of Indiana by prosecuting attorney Nicholas C. McClelland, and respectfully objects to the defendant's motion to suppress and would ask the court to deny the same, and in support of said motion states the following. That on May 19th, 2023, the defendant filed a motion to suppress the evidence seized as a result of a search warrant executed on the home of the defendant on October 13th, 2022. 2. That the defense alleges that the search warrant was unreasonable under the Indiana and federal constitution and that it lacked probable cause, that it failed to establish that the items to be seized were in the residence 100% or could be expected to be in the residence. Same, that just the like they did with Ron failed Logan. To provide particular information that particular items related to a particular crime would be found in the home, and that the affidavit failed to connect generic items to actual items that were possibly used in the crime. 3. That in September 2022, while reviewing the evidence in the investigation into the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, investigators discovered an interview that was done with Richard Allen in 2017 by Indiana Conservation Officer Dan Doolin. 4. That in the 2017 interview, Richard Allen admitted being on the trail the day that Abigail Williams and Liberty German went missing. 5. That he stated that he was on the trail between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m., and that while he was on the trail he was using his phone. 6. That on October 13th, 2022, investigators invited Richard Allen and his wife Kathy Allen to speak to them and follow up on that interview done in 2017. 7. That both Richard Allen and Kathy Allen came to the interview on their own on October 13th, 2022, were not under arrest, and were free to leave the interview at any time. 8. The investigators learned from those interviews that Richard Allen reaffirmed that he was in fact on the trails that day that Abby Williams and Liberty German went missing.
and further admitted to being on the high bridge. That he also told investigators that he was wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with the hood, and that he was wearing a head cover.
And all you armchair detectives out there, yeah, that's what he said. Man, this is nothing new. Brad Holder, after everybody was looking into him, he actually came out and made a bunch of videos about it. I think he has a TikTok video where he's like, all you guys who are thinking that I had something to do with this. Yeah, if you want to go check that out, I'll try to find links and put that in the description.
Covering. That was 9. 10. The further, Richard stated that he did own guns and that the guns were in his home. 11. That investigators learned from Kathy that Richard Allen still had guns and knives in the home, along with the blue Carhartt jacket. 12. That investigators believed a firearm was involved in the abduction and murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German because the unspent .40 caliber round was found between the bodies of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. 13. That investigators believed a knife was used in the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. 14. That the clothes that Richard Allen described wearing the day he was on the trails matched the description of the man seen on the bridge from the video taken by Liberty German's phone. 15. That it was also gathered that Richard Allen still possessed the firearms, knives, and the clothing, and said items were in his house. 16. That based on this information, investigators prepared a probable cause affidavit with the search warrant for the home of Richard Allen. 17. That the probable cause affidavit covers all the information that law enforcement had gathered in the investigation up until October 13th, 2022. 18. That investigators applied for the search warrant on October 13th, 2022, and the same was granted that day by Carroll County Circuit Court Judge Benjamin Diener, herein attached as State Exhibit 1. 19. Investigators went to the residence of defendant located at 1967 North Whiteman Drive, Delphi, Indiana, knocked on the door and executed the search warrant.
Let's go ahead and stop for a moment. I want to catch up on the chat here. R. Barley says, people are dumb thinking it's Odin's now. It's a damn front. Someone looked the shit up and died to throw the trail. It's a fairly common attempt. Yeah, that's why I was talking. The reasons why people, leave signatures and stage the crime scene. Ritualistic. To mislead and distance themselves, right? Here, let me skip to this here. What's up, Grunge? Though possible. Yes, this is very possible. But think about it. The only connection to Odinism, they're going to have to make that connection, is they're saying these weird triangles. Okay, how is that connected to Odinism? And then this ruin that looks like an F. First, they have to prove that it is a ruin, right? So they haven't even done that. So instead of proving that it's a ruin, they just skip over that because they don't need to prove anything in this. They just need to create a little doubt. So they just need everybody believing into these conspiracies. That way, the prosecution, their team looks weak, almost as if they're presenting their own conspiracy. And maybe they are. I think it's important that they do prove chain of command when it comes to that bullet, because that's the only smoking gun right now is that unspent bullet. So yeah, you definitely need to show the chain. Is it chain of custody? Sorry. So I thought the defense had a good point when it comes to that bullet, because to me that's the most important thing. The witness is saying yes, the guy that's in that video is the man that I seen on the trail. All right. And everybody else on the trail is like, yeah, the guy we seen is the guy on that video. Okay. Well, the way that they can prove that that's the guy on the video is with that bullet, tying him to the case, tying him to the crime scene. Without that bullet, there is no case. Yes, you have the witnesses, but they can't prove that Richard Allen is the guy on the bridge without that bullet. Because all the witnesses are saying is, yes, hey, The guy we saw is the guy that I can see in Libby's video. And then you have Richard Allen saying, well, the girls who are claiming they saw the guy on the video, I also saw them. So they're kind of, their stories align. So in a way, Richard Allen is kind of confessing by corroborating that story with the witness. And then you got to ask yourself, if law enforcement is going to plant a bullet from Richard Allen or swap it out, and like, what would be their motivation? So you have a second huge crime, right? This huge conspiracy. What's the motivation for that? Just cuz? Grunge says, doubtful the jury would buy that. It depends. I mean, there's a lot of people in the chat right now that believe Richard Allen is completely innocent, that he's being set up for murder, and that it is most likely some kind of weird ritualistic killing, and that maybe even law enforcement's involved. Because if you notice, the defense was feeding all of this conspiracy. It was like dog treats. You want another one? You know how they mentioned the people basically looking over Richard Allen in the prison were also these gang members. You know, it's all conspiracy stuff. Like, you have to be able to prove all of that. Wild accusations. Reminds me of my first live stream. Pretty sure I said all of that stuff. Well, Marbles, the things you got to focus on are the facts. You know, where they describe the crime scene and the signatures. And I found it very odd that Abby was wearing Libby's clothing. You know, why are they undressing and redressing? Why are they doing these things? Oh, another thing it seems we may have learned that none of the DNA matches with Richard Allen. Remember, I said that early on. The reason I think that Nicholas McClellan might think others are involved because they don't have a match on that DNA. So if they can prove through witnesses that Richard Allen is the kidnapper, but through DNA they can't tie him to the physical act of murder, you know, for them it would be safe to say others are involved. So it's like they're trying to eliminate Richard Allen from this big conspiracy that they're trying to paint, right? They're trying to paint this picture, tell this story. But then they think you're going to forget about Richard Allen. They put him just off to the side, right? And he's barely hanging on by a thread. Oh, well, he doesn't have anything on his computers or at home, and he's not tied to that. Well, you got to prove that. People that knew Richard Allen that I've spoken to personally said he's the quietest person that they've ever met. So why would he share that? And didn't he have that weird little beard? Isn't that like something they do? They like shave everything but this huge goatee. Have nothing to do with Wiccan, and I could find 900 things in 30 seconds that set up a staged Wiccan ritual in the woods. Give me a break. Yep. And we know for a fact that there were some kind of Wiccan symbols left at the Stevenson case, and we know that they were interested in Delphi for some reasons. We know that they were questioning local Wiccan organizations nearby. So it's like you always have these two stories. You have the trucker theory, and then you have, you know, the ritualistic theory. Same thing we had going on with Delphi. So they're basically using the strongest YouTube conspiracy theory out there to fit their narrative just to create a little bit of doubt. And they're doing a great job at it. By dropping this document, most people will put that information out and not look at it critically. People are going to go, wow, I told you it wasn't Richard Allen. Well, you have to be patient. You got to remember, we're being pulled to the left by the prosecution, and then we're being yanked back all the way to the far right by the defense. That's their job, to yank and yank. But right there in the middle somewhere is the actual truth. And you're not going to really figure that out because it sounds like they're all in. They're all in to play the game, and the circus is going to begin, I believe. But you got to be patient. Let the experts do their work. Let the court process, and hopefully it is televised. Make sure that they stay honest. True Crime and Other Stuff says make it look like someone else did it. Yeah, it's the oldest trick in the book. Usually that's done by people who are family and friends. Like if you're trying to mislead, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create distance between you and the victim. If you leave a bunch of random, oh, like this was a satanic attack or whatever, leave a bunch of stuff like that around, it's going to mislead investigators. And it sounds like it may have misled quite a few people if it wasn't a real ritual. We know that there were some trees cut down out there. I always wondered, who cut those trees down? Did law enforcement cut those trees down because they wanted to get the DNA that might be on there? What happened to those trees? So it always seemed very ritualistic.
Around 5 p.m. on October 13th, 2022, and the search warrant was complete around 7:09 p.m. 20. The defendant and his wife were asked to be out of the residence while the search warrant was executed, but were allowed back in the residence immediately afterwards. 21. Investigators found several items in the residence, including firearms and electronic devices, all of which is outlined in the search warrant. Return attached herein as State's Exhibit.
CJK says these channel creators are passing on info, rumors, and more onto the defense. Hey, and that's their right. If he's innocent, great. But the thing is, whenever you hear me talk about Richard Allen, I don't say he's the killer. He's the guy. I say if he's the killer, if Richard Allen is the man responsible, or if he is who they say he is, then this may be the case. So the thing is we don't know. A lot of information. Really, we've only learned really 5 new facts, right, from these documents. The rest is all conspiracy stuff that we've already been talking about. So you can 100% CJK tell who's sending this information to the defense team because it makes a great story. And a lot of these YouTube conspiracy type people that's what they do. They tell a great story. And when they can tell that great story, to them, that's some kind of proof that everything is aligning, that it's, you can't ignore it. It's right there in front of you. But when you want something, that's usually what happens.
2. That on Monday, February 13th, 2017, at approximately 1:50 p.m.
Milan says, Sleuth, you have an agenda? What's my agenda? I've been covering more facts about this case than anybody.
Abigail and Liberty German were dropped off by a family member at the Monon High Bridge Trail off of County Road 300 North. On Tuesday, February 14th, 2017, at approximately 12:17 p.m., the girls were found deceased. Their bodies were located in the woods northeast of.
Karen Roper says, looks like he does have an alibi. Who's that? Holder? Yeah, I'm telling you guys, we looked into this guy like everybody did. I'm pretty sure this dude has an alibi, unless they broke that to pieces. He was like the first person everybody looked into. So I guess it's not surprising that it's the first person the defense tries to put out there. Well, if the defense goes down the path I went, eventually they'll be saying the same thing I am, and they'll have to recuse themselves.
The Monon High Bridge, autopsies of the girls ruled their deaths as a homicide, and their wounds were caused by a sharp object. Investigators located Liberty German's iPhone 6S under her body at the scene and were able to recover a video approximately 43 seconds in length, captured at...
Let's go to Goat Dog. Sleuth Intuition, I think they don't care about this alibi. This is just to muddy the waters and introduce reasonable doubt. Yep, and that's what this video's turned into. I'm trying to explain that. That's all they're trying to do with the suppression, with everything. It's their job, and they're doing a great job at it. But you got to remember, it doesn't matter what we say here on YouTube. Yeah, we can influence people on that, but it's their job to make sure they vet these jurors and that they don't grab anybody that might already have a preconceived notion. Chopper Harris says, well, I've just read the crime scene. My head is fucked now just for the girls, and I send much love to the families. Yeah, so if they're hearing all this information right now, they're definitely going to be feeling some kind of way. Make sure you guys give your support to the victims' families first and foremost. There's nothing in these documents that is saying, oh, the families had anything to do with it. So remember, a lot of people spreading the conspiracies are also saying that the family members are involved in these crimes. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Milan says, because I will not entertain anything beyond his theory. I don't remember presenting a theory. I'm literally presenting the facts and giving my opinion, and then asking you what you think. You keep making it about me, Milan. You seem to be obsessed about me. You need to focus more on the information that's being presented, if you can. I'll go ahead and let the mods handle you from there on out. %, Frank. Frank, what time are you going live? Are you going to focus more on the ruin stuff that you've been researching? What's going on with your live stream later? I'm going to try to check that out. And hopefully I can read these documents by then.
At 2:13 p.m. on February 13th, 2017. The video depicts Abby walking on the Monon High Bridge towards Liberty, while a male subject wearing a dark jacket and jeans walks behind her. Near the end of the video, the man is heard in the video telling the girls down the hill.
Marbles, no, Brad is not the shofar guy. Well, Brad is the shofar guy, but it's a different Brad. It's Brad Heath. Brad Heath is the guy who reported seeing the 4-door sedan parked not at the CPS building, but between the CPS building and the Freedom Bridge. But law enforcement never put that into the probable cause affidavit. Brad Heath even came and followed up about the tip, and they weren't interested. But yeah, different guy. Brad, the guy you're referring to, Brad Holder, that is mentioned in these documents, is the father of Abby's boyfriend at the time of her murder. And at that time, if you go to his Facebook, there was a lot of strange posts, a lot of Odinism, a lot of violence, dead animals, Freemasonry, and ruins and stuff like that. And he never tried to hide it.
Through further investigation of the location of the bodies, investigators also located a .40 caliber unspent round. They also determined that the articles of clothing from the girls were missing from the scene, including a pair of underwear and a sock. Through the investigation, there were interviews done with 3 of the 4 girls that were on the trails that day. The girls observed a male on the trails on February 13th, 2017 that matched the description of the male on the video recorded by Liberty German. The three girls identified as RV, BW, and AS encountered this male near the bench east of the Freedom Bridge. The girls were on the trail and were walking towards the Freedom Bridge to go home. The male they encountered was walking from the Freedom Bridge towards the Monon High Bridge. One of the girls, identified as AS, described the male as an older man walking on the trails as they were leaving, and she described him as kind of creepy. In a text from Anna to KB, AS described the man as wearing like blue jeans, like really light blue jacket. His hair was gray, maybe a little brown, and he did not really show his face. Investigator Steve Mullen and Brent Ingram interviewed AS, and she described the male as wearing a blue jacket and light blue faded blue jeans. The jacket was a canvas duck type jacket. RV was also in the group of four girls, and she said that she said hi to the man and he just glared at them. She recalled him being in all black and had something covering his mouth.
RV
Recalled telling her sister that someone was in a grumpy mood. She went on to describe him as not very tall and bigger build. She said that he was not bigger than 5'10". RV went on to say in an interview that he was wearing a black hoodie, black jeans, and black boots. She said that he had his hands in his pockets.
Oh, snap. Fiend X says, looks like he just deleted all his old posts. Well, good thing we got all of them. I have them. Members, we'll touch on this on Wednesday too. And I might see what I can go through. I don't want to do anything that's going to piss Brad Holder off or, get him to sue me. But we're going to take a look at some of the things that they're referring to. Only the items that were listed we'll talk about.
An interview was conducted in 2020 of BW. She was able to show investigators a picture that she took on her phone of the Monon High Bridge with the timestamp of 12:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. BW showed investigators another picture she took at the bench just east of the Freedom Bridge when they were leaving at 1:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. BW stated after she took the picture at the bench, they started walking back towards the Freedom Bridge. BW
Don Halford says, wasn't he the guy that made that homemade movie that was remarkably like What Happens to Abby and Libby? No, that was DP. That was like a school project. And he actually lives by the bridge. That's why he was there, I'm assuming.
BW stated that's when they walked past the
To
man
film
that
that little
matched
video.
the description of the individual in the picture. Detective Liggett believes the picture that she was referring to is the picture law enforcement released of the man on the bridge, taken from the video Liberty captured on her cell phone.
Mandy Ray has a good point. She says it's not a conspiracy if ruins were done in Libby and Abby's blood. She's right. But the question is it a ruin? And was it done as a ritual? Or was it done to cause confusion and send investigators down the wrong path? Well, the thing is, we haven't even seen it yet. We've heard the description of the sticks. Not quite sure how that ties into Odinism. That's definitely pagan. Closer to maybe even some type of Wiccan type of deal. So, first they got to prove what it is. We haven't even seen it. It could even just be maybe somebody put their hand up on the tree. If it looks like an F, you got two fingers, right? You got two fingers and then your palm. If you lean on the tree, who knows? Maybe it wasn't even done purposely. They're going to have an expert come and say, this is what this is, before they can say this is what it's tied to.
On the day of the murders. BW described the man as wearing a blue or black windbreaker jacket. She stated the jacket had a collar and he had his hood up from the clothing underneath the jacket.
100%. Don Spain says, yeah, the defense is smart. Look at the sensational reaction we are having. Yeah, and it's almost like a blatant disregard, too. They're putting out all the facts, the crime scene, and, this is how violent it was. But it wasn't, as long as it's the most brutal thing that we've ever seen and it's not his client, he doesn't care. As long as it's somebody else over here committing that murder, he doesn't care how brutal and how many details he releases to the public. Because as long as it wasn't his client committing these murders, He doesn't care.
BW advised he was wearing baggy jeans and was taller than her. She stated her head came up to approximately his shoulder. BW said RV said hi to the man and he said nothing back. BW described the man as walking with a purpose, like he knew where he was going. BW also stated the man had his hands in his pockets and kept his head down. She didn't get a good look at his face but believed he was a white male. As the girls left, they crossed the Freedom Bridge and the railroad bridge over Old SR 25. And an individual by the name of Betsy Blair was returning to the trails to finish her walk. Betsy Blair is seen on the video at Hoosier Harvest Store on 300 North, traveling eastbound on the trailhead to park at 1:46 actual time. Blair saw the girls walking above and she went under the railroad bridge. On September 21st, 2022, Detective
CJK says, at Melissa, defense dropped some disturbing docs to bolster their saying their client is innocent. Well, they do have a good point, though. Think about it. It's just as reckless. We know that they can leave information out of the probable cause, but they can't mislead. You can't mislead the judge. You can leave it out to the public, but I don't think you can leave that information out when you're presenting it to the judge. Somebody correct me in the chat if I'm mistaken about that. I'm pretty sure that they can't leave out information about the signatures and things like that. If it's leading to another suspect, they have to include that information. Not to the public, but when they're presenting it to a judge, I believe they have to.
Liggett was provided a tip narrative from Orion Den C 000074-01 to review. It was from the DNR Lieutenant Dan Doolin. The narrative was as follows. Mr. Allen was on the trail between 1:30 and 3:30.
Okay, and this is by his own admission. Between 1:30 and 3:30. That's what he came forward and said, hey, I was on the trails from 1:30 to 3:30. That's exactly when the girls went missing and disappeared. So they have an uphill battle. They're going to need more than a conspiracy, I think. And we'll most likely hear a rebuttal from the prosecution. Since all the cards are out on the table, I think we're going to hear something from their side probably here in a few days, if not later today.
He parked at the old Farm Bureau building and walked to the new Freedom Bridge. While at the Freedom Bridge, he saw 3 females and noted one was taller and had brown or black hair. He did not remember the description, nor did he speak with them. He walked from the Freedom Bridge to the High Bridge. He did not see anybody, although he stated he was watching a stock ticker on his phone as he walked. He stated there were vehicles parked at the High Bridge Trail, however, did not pay attention to them. He did not take any photos or video. His cell phone did not list an IMEI, but did have the following: MEID-256 691 463 100 153 495 and MEID-HEX 990024 702 5797.
Good point.
Potential follow-up information. Who were the 3 girls walking in the area of the Freedom Bridge? Through the statement of Mr. Allen, he admits that on February 13th, 2017, he parked his vehicle at the old Farm Bureau building from 1:30 to 3:30 and was on the trails at that time. There is no old Farm Bureau building anywhere close to the trails or bridges. Detective Leggett believes he is referring to the old Child Protective Services building. In 2017, Richard Allen owned a 2016 black Ford Focus and a 2006 gray Ford 500. Upon review of the video collected from the Hoosier Harvest Store on February 13th, 2017,
Okay, guys, while listening to this information, keep in mind what we've just learned about the signatures and about the crime scene. Does it seem like it fits?
Investigators were able to locate a vehicle that appears to match Allen's 2016 Ford Focus on the video at 1:27 actual time. This coincides with Allen saying he was at the trails around 1:30. Previously said above, RV B, W, and AS were leaving the trails and passed by a male matching the description of the male in the video taken by Liberty. Given the statements by Allen and the timestamp of the video from the Hoosier Harvest Store and the statements by 3 of the 4 girls, Detective Liggett believes that the male the 3 of the girls saw was in fact Richard Allen. Allen stated that after he passed the girls and then he walked to the Monon High Bridge and saw nobody else. Investigators believe that after passing the Hoosier Harvest Store at 1:46, Blair parked at the trailhead entrance across from the Mears residence.
Good point by Shadowbox here. I was thinking the same thing. The defense using motions again to get around the gag order. Yep.
In her interview, she says there are no other cars at the trailhead entrance at that time. She walked to the Monon High Bridge and a male matching the male from Liberty's video. She described him as a white male wearing blue jeans and a blue jean jacket. This matches the blue duck canvas jacket AS describes. Blair said that the male was standing on the first platform of the Monon High Bridge approximately 50 feet away from her. Blair turned around at the bridge and continued her walk. Approximately halfway between the bridge and the main hub of the trails, she passed 2 girls walking towards the high bridge. Blair said that she believed it was Liberty German and Abigail Williams. At 1:49 on the Hoosier Harvest Store video, there is a white car that matches Kelsey German's vehicle. Liberty and Abigail would have been dropped off right before this video. Blair finished her walk and is seen on the Hoosier Harvest Store video leaving westbound at 2:14. Blair said that she saw no adults other than the male on the bridge. As Blair was leaving, she noted a vehicle was parked in an odd manner at the old Child Protection Service building. She said that it was not odd for vehicles to be parked there, but it was odd that it was backed.
Good point. R. Barley 18 says also, don't forget they never said Rick killed them. This case is Rick kidnapped them, which resulted in their death. Yeah, I mentioned that multiple times. Prosecutors know way more than you think. And also, what I think we can take from his defense team dropping these documents, and from what after reading it, it sounds like they don't have his DNA connected to the crime scene. So if it's not his DNA and they have DNA, I mean, it's safe to assume they have another perpetrator, right? And the way they charged him and the way they wrote the PCA is that, hey, he kidnapped them from that bridge, and if it wasn't for him doing that, they would still be alive.
Near the building. She said that vehicles often use the south edge of the parking lot so they are closer to the trail to get to the Freedom Bridge. Detective Liggett reviewed a tip DIN-C001751 from Terry Wilson. Wilson was on his way to Delphi on February 13, 2017 on the Hoosier Heartland Highway at approximately 2:10. He observed what he described as a purple PT Cruiser or a small SUV type vehicle parked on the south side of the old CPS building. Wilson said that it was backed in to conceal the license plate of the vehicle. During their interview, both Blair and Wilson drew a diagram and had the vehicle they saw parked in the same general area or manner. And an interview was done of Sarah Carbaugh in 2017. She states that she was traveling east on 300 North and observed a male subject walking west on the north side of 300 North, away from the Monon High Bridge. She stated that he was wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans and was muddy and bloody. She further stated that it appeared that he had gotten into a fight. Investigators determined from the video that she was on 300 North at 3:57 p.m. Richard M. Allen was interviewed by investigators on October 13, 2022, at the Investigation Center. He was interviewed by Detective Liggett and Carroll County Prosecutor Investigator Stephen Mullen. He agreed to come to the center and speak with investigators. He was advised his rights, and he was further advised that he was not under arrest and was free to go. Investigator Mullen explained to him how to leave the center if he so desired. He stated that he was in fact on the trails on February 13, 2017.
Hey, Charlotte.
He further stated that he saw 3 girls on the trails east of the Freedom Bridge and also that he went on the Monon High Bridge. He also told the investigator that he was wearing blue jeans and a blue or black Carhartt jacket with a hood on that day. He stated he also wore some type of head covering.
Hugh has a good point. He says there may be some truth in what the defense is saying, just like the theory that's there is a little bit of truth in every false alibi, but none of this absolves Richard Allen. I agree with that. Um, so let's say Richard Allen is involved. Let's say he is the bridge guy and was responsible for kidnapping the girls and leading them to their deaths. Okay, how is he tied into anything? If he's not the killer, why would he be the one creating signatures and doing being motivated to do all these strange things? If he's just recruited, so there might be some truth. Maybe the part that they don't understand is that he is into Odinism. Maybe he is connected to that and they just don't know.
He further claimed that he saw no one else but the 3 girls that he observed east of the Freedom Bridge. Further, prior to the interview, he told investigators that he also had guns at his home. Richard M. Allen's wife, Kathy Allen, spoke to investigators as well. She confirmed that Richard did have guns and knives at the residence.
And that's the kind of thing, those are the things that the defense is calling generic. It's like, okay, what kind of a gun? Like, how specifically do you know that this person has this weapon? Just having a gun or having knives is a little generic.
She also stated that Richard still has a blue Carhartt jacket. The evidence gathered shows that on February 13, 2017, that 4 girls, RV, BW, AS, and IV, were on the trail when they observed a male individual walking on the trails towards the Monon High Bridge. The male was wearing clothes similar to the clothes of the male depicted in the video taken from Liberty German's phone. Investigators know that this male is the last known individual to have contact with Liberty German and Abigail Williams before they were murdered. Further, Betsy Blair was shown a picture of the individual on the Monon High Bridge, and she says that's the same individual that she witnessed.
Okay, so Richard Allen's saying, hey, I was there, and admitting to seeing those 3 girls that stated they saw him, or at least saw the guy that they seen was the guy in Libby's video. So without him corroborating their stories, he kind of told on himself. He basically admitted that, hey, I'm the guy in that video.
On the trails and on the bridge. In an interview with Richard M. Allen done on October 13, 2022, he admits that he was in fact on the trails on February 13, 2017, and walked past 3 girls and continued on the Monon High Bridge.
Hey, Rain Dancer.
He stated that he was physically on the bridge. After Betsy Blair sees this individual, there are several other individuals on the trail that don't observe the man or Liberty German or Abigail Williams. Sarah Carbaugh then observes a man walking down 300 North with a blue jacket and jeans, and that he is muddy and bloody.
Okay, the defense is saying that part is a lie. That he wasn't wearing a blue jacket, that he was actually wearing a brown jacket.
As if he had just been in a fight. She has shown a picture of the man on the bridge, and she stated it's the same man she observed walking on 300 North. Investigators believe that Richard M. Allen is the last individual to have contact with Liberty German and Abigail Williams. Investigators further believe that Richard M. Allen is the individual depicted on the Monon High Bridge from the video taken from Liberty German's phone. Investigators believe Richard Allen was not seen on the trail after 2:13 p.m. because he was in the woods with victim 1 and victim 2. An unspent .40 caliber round between the bodies of victim 1 and victim 2 was forensically determined to have been cycled through Richard Allen's Sig Sauer Model P226. The Sig Sauer Model P226 was found at Richard Allen's residence, and he admitted to owning it. Investigators were able to determine that he had owned it since 2001. Richard Allen stated he had not been on that property where the unspent round was found, and he did not know the property owner, and that he had no explanation as to why the round cycled through his firearm would be at that location. Furthermore, he stated that he never allowed anyone to use or borrow the Sig Sauer Model P226.
Yeah, I think
Investigators
so.
believe that after the victims were murdered, Richard Allen returned to his vehicle by walking down CR 300 North. Investigators believe he was seen by Sarah Carbaugh walking back to his vehicle on CR 300 North with clothes that were muddy and bloody. Tony Leggett, along with investigators, believe the statements made by the witnesses because they corroborate the timeline of the death of two victims, as well as coincide with the
What's up, Pete?
admissions made by Richard Allen. Further, the accounts relayed by Betsy Blair, RV, BW, and AS.
Chris Owens says, those documents are from the defense, so can we even trust anything in those documents? You have to, what they're doing is pleading to the public opinion. A lot of people aren't going to read those documents. They're going to try to quote it, and they're going to start misquoting it. And then the rumors, it's that old game. When you whisper in somebody's ear, they'll whisper in somebody else's ear, pass it along, pass it along. By the end of the line, it's completely something else, right? It's mutated. So you can expect a lot of that. But me, I'm going to read every word of those documents, and I'm going to tell you guys what I think as soon as I'm done.
Are similar in nature, and timestamps of photographs taken by BW correspond to the times the juvenile female said they were on the trail and saw the male individual. Investigators believe Richard M. Allen committed this kidnapping.
Slathering says, I don't think any of this is new. It's not. Well, the staging and the signatures and all that stuff is new to me. Just the defense highlighting something that was already known. Yeah, that's all they're doing. Spreading doubt.
Kidnapping, which resulted in the killing of Victim 1 and Victim 2. From their prior conclusions, investigators believe Richard M. Allen was the male depicted on Victim 2's video saying.
Oh, and also to follow up on that, Slatherings, and I think that's what the defense is trying to say, is that nowhere in the probable cause affidavit did they mention that there was ever an interest in this Odinism stuff, and that they had somebody that they could have easily have tied to it if they would have just taken the time and interviewed and followed up on leads, or even did a little bit of investigating. But now that that wasn't done, it's easy to create that doubt now. And also they could possibly get that search warrant thrown out if they can convince the judge, like, hey, they withheld that information for a reason, to purposely mislead the court. They didn't tell you about the type of signatures and how some experts were tying those signatures to gangs in the local area, a specific gang, and that those specific gang members were actually tied to some of the victims. So, I mean, I think they have an argument. I just don't know enough about the legal system to know whether it's good or bad.
Guys down the hill. They believe Richard M. Allen was carrying his 6-hour model P226 on that date. Due to the cycled round matching that firearm was located within feet of Victim 2's body. They further believe he was carrying a 6-hour model P226 from the audio from Victim 2's video, in which investigators believe they hear the sound of a gun being cycled and one of the victims mentioning a gun. Investigators believe after that time, Victim 1 and Victim 2 were removed from the bridge by Richard to where their murders occurred. Charges were filed against Richard M. Allen on October 28, 2022, for 2 counts of murder. Once Richard M. Allen was taken into custody, he was moved to the Westville Correctional Facility, which is part of the Indiana Department of Corrections, for safekeeping. He has been in said facility since November of 2022. When Richard M. Allen entered the facility, he was placed in the segregation unit for his protection. In the segregation unit, his cell is equipped with a video recorder which records his activities within the cell. There are also logs indicating when Richard M. Allen leaves the cell and for what purposes.
Frank says Brad Holder is responding. Frank, ask him if he wants to come on to the live stream we're having. Be like, hey, we're talking about you right now on a live stream. Would you like to be a guest? I'll send him the link.
He is also being seen by medical providers and mental health specialists to evaluate his physical condition and monitor his mental health. Richard M. Allen also has the ability to use a tablet in his cell and send text messages, make phone calls, and listen to music. Upon Richard M. Allen's arrival to the facility, he was placed on watch because of certain statements he made about harming himself. Throughout his stay, his mental health improved to the point that he was taken off of watch. He was also participating in recreation time and beginning to exercise. The facility reports that he was doing well and that they had no issues or concerns. His day-to-day demeanor was that
100% goat dog. The reason they put that information out is because they want to show the public what they left out. You know, they put out their probable cause affidavit. They're like, here, this is what we have. This is why this man is guilty. So people like me, that's what we report. You know, that's all we have. We're dealing with the facts that we have. And one thing we do know for certain is that we know hardly nothing at all, right? So they said, okay, well, they're putting out that information because that's all they have. Let me go ahead and give them something else. Let me go ahead and show them the flip side to that coin.
he was quiet, read a lot of books, did crossword puzzles, and exercised daily. On April 3rd, 2023, Richard M. Allen made a phone call to his wife, Kathy Allen. In that phone call, Richard M. Allen admits several times that he killed Abby and Libby. Investigators had the phone call transcribed, and the transcription confirms that Richard M. Allen admits that he committed the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. He admits several times within the phone call that he committed the offenses as charged. His wife, Kathy Allen, ends the phone call abruptly. Soon after, attorneys for Richard M. Allen filed an emergency motion to modify safekeeping order. In that motion, the defense states that Richard M. Allen's mental state has declined because Westville Correctional Facility is unfit and that he should be moved. Defense also makes allegations that his mental health has declined due to the point where Richard M. Allen has been deprived of his constitutional right to assist in his defense of this case. Further, defense alleges that his mental capacity has declined because of his incarceration at Westville Correctional Facility. Defense has also challenged that his treatment is unconstitutional. Soon after, investigators were made aware by the warden of Westville Correctional Facility that Richard M. Allen began to act strangely. Richard M. Allen was wetting down paperwork he had gotten from his attorneys and eating it. He was refusing to eat and refusing to sleep. He would go days on end refusing to sleep. He further broke the tablet that he used for text messages and phone calls. He went from making up to 2 phone calls a day as of April 3rd, 2023, to not making any phone calls at all. To date, Richard M. Allen still has not made a phone call since April 3rd, 2023. On April 14th, 2023, Richard M. Allen was evaluated by 2 psychiatrists and 1 psychologist to discuss his turn in behavior and whether or not there was a need for involuntary medication. The panel would also discuss moving Richard M. Allen to a different facility that has a psychiatric unit. From that meeting, it was determined that Richard M. Allen did not need involuntary medication and that he did not need to be moved to another facility. Since that meeting, Richard M. Allen is now sleeping and eating. His behavior is returning to what was prior to making the admission on April 3rd, 2023.
Okay. So that was the probable cause and their response to the motion to suppress the search warrant. Let me go ahead and pull those documents back up. We'll just clear out this next hour. Give me a moment. Thanks again to Frank Meister for shooting that over to me. Sensei, Crystal, thank you guys. Karen, hello. I read that the killer put two bras on Abby further on. Weird. Yeah, that is weird. I wonder why they did that. Oh, here we go. Okay, this is page 22. Hold on, let me see where it starts. Okay, beginning on April 3rd, 2023, and for several visits thereafter, the Westville correction officer even videotaped attorney visits between Richard and his defense team. Most of the time, if not every time, it was Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson bringing the handheld camcorder to the visit. Corrections officers even required that Richard Allen be positioned facing the window where the corrections officer was videotaping the attorney visits with the handheld camcorder. Are they allowed to do that? This positioning of Richard Allen's body would allow the corrections officers to videotape Richard Allen's mouth as he talked to his attorneys. Richard would therefore not be able to privately discuss anything with his attorneys, such as, if the guards are telling me that my wife and family will be killed unless I call my wife and tell her that I killed those girls. Whoa. That's insane. Instead, a mentally defeated Richard Allen would continually mutter to his defense team at every visit these types of general questions. So, see, all these things could be true, right? Is my wife alive? Is the question. Is my family alive? Is my wife safe? Is my family safe? So, if they think these Odinists are involved and Richard Allen says that they're threatening him, why would they be threatening him? Maybe to keep his mouth shut? So far, the one problem with their theory is they're not distancing Richard Allen far enough from the story that they're trying to paint here. At one such meeting with his attorneys, Richard Allen mumbled in a somewhat incoherent fashion that Odinites were threatening him. It would be important to know that Richard Allen's defense team had never mentioned the words Odinite or Odinism, or informed Richard Allen that evidence suggests that Odinist murdered Abby and Libby until August 25th of 2023, when his defense team, in the presence of his wife, who was visiting with Rick in the prison, first discovered exculpatory Odin-related evidence to Rick. What? Rick's defense team felt that having him remain unaware would hopefully keep Rick a bit safer due to Rick's weakened mental state. Well, we need to stop here. Okay, so if nobody told Richard Allen about this Odinist connection and he's talking about it on his own, they're making him seem even more guilty. They're telling us left and right that the signatures and the ruins left at the crime scene are related to these Odinites, right? Well, they're telling us right here that nobody's ever mentioned that to Richard Allen. Yet he's going around under the impression that they're trying to kill his entire family or threatening him. So to me, that makes him look even more guilty and has a connection with these Odinites. Because according to his defense team, he has no clue about that information being related to the crime. At one such meeting, his attorneys, Richard Allen, mumbled in somewhat incoherent fashion that Odinites were threatening him. It would be important to know that Richard Allen's defense team had never mentioned the words Odinites or Odinism, or informed Richard Allen that evidence suggests that Odinites murdered Abby or Libby. And let's read this part. Again, more detailed information concerning the Odinite corrections officers. See, they need to prove that. That's a hell of an accusation, as well as the documentation supporting that information. And I wonder if that's Facebook groups being what is the like worshiping Odin and all that stuff doesn't make you like part of some kind of sacrificial gang, right? So they're trying to paint all these people in the same light. So if you have any of these emails or if you have or emails or any of these pictures on your social media, you're an Odinite. You're going to sacrifice little kids. So it sounds like they're trying to paint this really use a broad brush to paint this picture. Let's see. All right. I think we're going to finish up there, guys. We're going to have to do a follow up to this. I want to read this very carefully. I don't want to stumble upon anything here and just be like completely shocked. Because I mean, that was kind of shocking right there. The fact that Richard Allen is saying, hey, I need to confess to this because it sounds like whoever really did it is going to kill his family. And that might be the reason why nobody came forward. They saw how dangerous these people were. Yeah, that's what it sounds like a star. I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that symbolism a little bit more. This was just sent to me. Thank you, by the way. So this is what I was thinking when they mentioned the sticks crossed and tied in the middle.
Odin, the All-Father of Norse runestones, these runes are so blurred by the passing of time.
But I'll get some content together and we'll do a follow-up on this. Let's see here. Thank you. I'm going to pull up this handbook here. I might be able to share this. Oh, this is old school. Page 77. Okay, thank you for that. All right, let's go to page 77. Okay, and this is the Odinism handbook. This was sent to me. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if you want me to give your name out. The Religion of Odin, a handbook. And she wants me to go to page 77. Says something very interesting there. Okay, let me share this. Okay, the Odinist calendar of festivals. In the below list, the great festivals are in bold capitals, secondary festivals are in lowercase, others are local festivals, 10 Trinity Green, London, England. Okay, now if we go down here to Horning, February 14th. Valley Festival of the Family. So that's something to look into. Remember they said there was horns? Or antlers in a crude fashion? Horning? So I don't know. And apparently the people that the defense thinks left these signatures have some kind of connection to Richard Allen. He seems to think they're going to kill his family. If somebody that you don't know comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm from this and I'm going to kill your family," and you have no clue about them, you're going to be like, "Well, I'm going to call the cops." But if you knew who those people were, you might take them serious, right? So if anything, we're painting a picture of maybe a deal. It's either throw the search warrant out or please give us a deal and we'll give you the other names. I think that's the cards that are being handed out here. Daisy says, "We love you, Libby and Abby." I mean, they need justice. If Richard Allen's not the guy, the court's going to be scrutinized. Yeah, put it on television. Let's get to the bottom of it. They have a lot of explaining to do. Why the witnesses saw him there, why he was there at that time, why is his bullet there at the crime scene? And I think another question is, why was his DNA not at the scene? Who was he helping? Was he getting those girls underneath the bridge? Was that his job? Your job's done now. You can sit back. Yeah, I think one guy is very much capable. From what they described in that paperwork, and it's my understanding Richard Allen was out there for an hour and 45 minutes. That's plenty of time to do that. But I'm going to read those documents in their entirety, and we'll do a follow-up on this, guys. I just want to know everything that's in there, and then I'll kind of give you my assessment. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on the way out. And anybody who's catching the replay, drop a comment. Let me know what you think about this new information. The details about the crime scene. Does this make Richard Allen look more guilty or less guilty? To me, I see some kind of a plea deal request in there somewhere. I don't want to talk because my family's at risk. Ensure their safety and my safety, and I'll give you all the answers. So that sounds like the plan B, but plan A sounds like to get the search warrant thrown out based on withholding evidence and just bold-faced lies. Good to see you, Meep. V. Marie, who do you believe, defense or law enforcement? You probably shouldn't believe either one. You should be somewhere right in the middle. Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in there. Maybe it was a ritual killing, but Richard Allen maybe only played a smaller role. And I find it very strange that he's talking about these Odinites before anybody's had a chance to explain this to him. He's already got the fear in him. He's like, I did it. It was me. Well, if he saw what happened firsthand to those girls, that might be why he's afraid. We know his daughter was getting married. Maybe he was offered a bunch of money. Who knows why people do these kinds of things? Yeah, they're very good at manipulating. 100%, that's true. I think it's possible. I just don't see, I don't know, it's very strange. I don't understand, you know. Yeah, 90 minutes is a long time. It's just weird. Doesn't I just don't understand that. Kind of makes me think one of the girls was alive much longer than the other. To the point where they were like, "Well, if you want to get dressed, you know, that's the only clothes you have." So motive is ritualistic behavior. Either that or they would want you to believe that. Yeah, I just remember the name Brad Holder. And everybody was looking into it, and he was even like coming on social media and talking about it. And from what I can understand, he had an alibi or something. That's a good point. All right, guys. Once again, if you could hit the thumbs up. Hopefully, you are subscribed. Consider becoming a member. This Wednesday, we're going to do another member's choice. So keep an eye out for the community post for you members in regards to that. And like I said, we'll go ahead and we'll follow up on this, on these documents. I need a chance to kind of regurgitate the information, process it all, verify the source, kind of look at what these mainstream medias are doing, if they have any experts commenting, strategists, things like that. I hear what they have to say. What's up, Melly? Might be a letter F or a rune that looks like an F. But for the effort, it must be a symbol of some kind with some kind of meaning. I don't know. I haven't seen it, Anna. For all I know, somebody just put their hand and it just happened to look like a shape. And it's a Rorschach painting. It's an ink blot. Yeah, so strange. Shoe and a phone. And Libby's phone, right, was under Abby. I'm sure of it, Rain Dancer. All right, let's welcome Linda Hope, new member. V. Marie, sponsoring today's live stream along with Cindy Lean. Thank you, guys. And I don't know if those documents are going to be available to the public. I feel like the status may have changed. So let me make sure I'm not releasing anything I'm not supposed to. And we're going to do a follow-up. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, guys, I'm out of time. Shout out to everybody who was able to make the live stream. Replay crew, please let me know in the comments what you think about this new information. Like I said, we'll get together again and we'll discuss the developments. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Thank you so much. For those of you who support my channel, much love. Can't do this without you guys. Peace out. Later.